Billionaire brings his mistress to the hospital, then freezes seeing his pregnant wife fighting. Ti fudua tinyan din ben vien ham tai. Roy chet lang kithe vordang mang tai kumin dan vutlon voi kai chet sindoi. Graham Donovan moved through the marble lobby of Mount Sinai Hospital with the confident stride of a man who believed the world bent for him. His hand rested possessively on the lower back of Sabrina Lowe, the elegant designer he had paraded around Manhattan for months. Sabrina wore oversized sunglasses and a soft beige coat, her fingertips brushing the newest iPhone she kept checking, as if headlines about her were moments away from appearing. Graham liked that about her ambition disguised as glamour. They stepped into the private elevator reserved for VIP patients. Graham had arranged everything: the prenatal specialist, the private suite, even the discreet billing that would ensure no unwanted eyes linked his name to Sabrina's pregnancy. He felt untouchable, as if the polished metal walls reflected the future he imagined, one freer, younger, easier than the life he had with his wife, Evelyn Hartman. Sabrina squeezed his arm. "Do you think they'll confirm it today?" she asked, voice light, almost musical. "They will," Graham assured, adjusting the cuff of his tailored jacket. "And once they do, everything changes." He didn't mean just for him. He meant for Evelyn too, though he hadn't bothered to tell her yet. Their marriage had been limping for years, and he convinced himself she would be better off without him. He never considered that she might actually be suffering. Graham preferred not to look behind him, only ahead. The elevator doors opened to the hush of the VIP maternity ward. Soft lighting, warm wooden accents, the faint aroma of expensive hand lotion. It was a world designed to soothe anxious parents. Sabrina smiled with satisfaction. Then a sound cut through the calm. "Code Blue. Trauma Bay 3. Move now." A team of nurses rushed past, pushing a gurney. Graham barely paid attention until he heard a name ripple through the hall. Patient Evelyn Hartman, 32. Critical hypotension, twins, let's go. Graham's world snapped, his breath locked in his chest. He turned, and time slowed to a crawl as he saw the pale face of his wife on the gurney, eyes closed, body trembling with every uneven breath. Tubes surrounded her. Her hands were limp. Her hospital gown was stained with the color he wished he hadn't seen. For a moment, the bustling hallway fell silent inside him. Sabrina froze, confusion tightening her jaw. "Evelyn? Your wife, Evelyn?" Graham couldn't answer. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. He felt the floor tilt, as if the luxury hospital suddenly became a void opening beneath him. Evelyn, his wife, the woman he had dismissed, ignored, left behind, was fighting for her life. And she was carrying twins. A doctor ran beside the gurney, calling out orders. Graham recognized him. Dr. Marcus Ellington, a name from Evelyn's past. Marcus looked shaken, determined, fiercely protective. And in that instant, something far darker than fear tightened around Graham's throat. Because Marcus looked at Evelyn as if she mattered. As if she had always mattered. And Graham realized he had no idea what was waiting for him on the other side of those emergency doors. But when the doors slammed shut, he sensed the truth. Whatever he thought he controlled was about to unravel in ways he never imagined. Graham stood frozen in the hallway, his pulse thundering louder than the alarms echoing from the trauma bay. He had always imagined himself unshakable, a man who could command boardrooms on Wall Street and silence entire teams with a single raised eyebrow. But now his legs felt unsteady, as if the polished hospital floor had turned to sand beneath him. He tried to follow the gurney, but his body hesitated, torn between guilt, denial, and a fear he could not name. Sabrina gripped his arm. "Graham, say something. Why is your wife here? Why is she pregnant?" The last word came out sharp, like she was spitting out something bitter. He swallowed hard. I didn't know." Even he was shocked at the sound of his own voice cracked, thin, almost boyish. "Evelyn never told me she was expecting." "Twins?" Sabrina hissed. "She's carrying twins, and you didn't know?" Her anger trembled beneath the surface, a storm waiting to burst. Before Graham could answer, the trauma bay doors swung open briefly as a nurse hurried out, and he caught a glimpse of Evelyn's face. She was pale, too pale, her breath shallow. Her dark hair was plastered to her forehead with sweat. He remembered her smile on their wedding day, warm and hopeful, the way she used to run her fingers across the Mont Blanc pen he gifted her, promising him she would support his dreams no matter how far they took him. That woman felt like a ghost now. Dr. Marcus Ellington stepped out from the crowd of medical staff, pulling off his gloves. His face was set with a mixture of urgency and restrained fury. When his eyes met Graham's, it was the look of a man who had seen the consequences of neglect too many times. "Graham," Marcus said curtly, "we're stabilizing her, but she's in critical condition. She came in with severe blood pressure, drops and signs of prolonged stress. The twins are under distress too." Graham's throat tightened. She didn't tell me anything." Marcus's expression hardened. "Maybe you weren't listening." The remark hit harder than any slap. Sabrina stiffened beside Graham, her fingers curling possessively around her coat. "Are you implying something?" she snapped. Marcus ignored her completely. His focus remained on Graham, his tone clipped and unforgiving. "Right now, your wife needs calm, not conflict. If you can't provide that, step back." Graham bristled at the command. No one spoke to him like that. But this wasn't a negotiation, and Marcus wasn't intimidated by money or influence. That alone unsettled Graham more than he expected. A nurse approached, holding a clipboard. "Dr. Ellington, the ultrasound is ready. We also need a decision on who's allowed in the room once she's stable." Marcus didn't hesitate. Evelyn's chart lists no immediate family. For now, only essential medical staff. Then he looked directly at Graham. "You can wait." The humiliation stung him. Sabrina leaned closer, her voice low. "Graham, you don't have to stand here and let him talk to you like that. We came here for my appointment, yours and mine." But Graham couldn't pull his eyes away from the trauma bay. Something inside him, something buried under pride and selfishness, began to twist. He had never feared losing Evelyn before. He had simply assumed she would always be there, quiet and compliant in the background. But seeing her lying there, fragile and fighting for two tiny lives, cracked something in him. "Cancel your appointment," he muttered. Sabrina stared at him, stunned. "What? I'm not leaving, not until I know she's all right." Sabrina's face twisted with disbelief, then outrage. "You're choosing her? Now? After everything?" He didn't answer. He just stared at the closed trauma doors, numb and terrified. And behind those doors, something was unfolding, something that would force the truth into the open and shatter the fragile world Graham thought he controlled. When Evelyn slipped into unconsciousness, her mind retreated to a place far quieter than the chaos surrounding her body. No alarms, no rushing footsteps, no pain tearing through her sides. Just darkness, and then slowly memories rising like soft waves. She found herself standing in the small Brooklyn apartment she once shared with Graham before the wealth, before Fifth Avenue, before power changed the shape of the man she married. Back then, he laughed easily, cooked scrambled eggs on Sunday mornings, and promised her they would build a life where love meant more than success. She remembered the night he took her hands, kissed her forehead, and told her she made the world feel gentle. But as the memory faded, another replaced it, sharper, colder. She was sitting alone at their long marble dining table in the penthouse, untouched dinner in front of her, the city lights glittering like taunts through the glass walls. Graham had texted her he'd be late. Again. "Meetings," he said. But she knew meetings didn't leave lipstick stains on shirt collars or fill his cologne with unfamiliar floral notes. She held her breath in the dreamlike haze as the scenes flipped again. There was the night she told him she felt unwell, that something felt different in her body. He barely looked up from his MacBook Pro. "Stress," he muttered. "You worry too much." She had wanted to tell him she suspected she might be pregnant, but his dismissive tone made her swallow the words. She didn't want her joy to be trampled by indifference. Another memory rose, this one harder to bear. She stood in the penthouse doorway, watching Graham leave for a conference, dressed too sharply for a business trip, carrying luggage that didn't look like his. Something in her chest tightened, but she stayed silent. She'd been staying silent for months. For him. For them. For the marriage she thought she could still revive if she loved him enough. And then came the worst memory of all. She was sitting on the bathroom floor, pregnancy test trembling in her hands. 2 lines. Not 1, 2. Her breath hitched. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She had wanted this for years. She had prayed for a child. Any child. But twins? That felt like a sign. A blessing. A gift big enough to fix everything. She imagined telling Graham and watching his cold expression warm again. Instead, when she tried to speak to him that night, he brushed past her. Evelyn, not now. I have calls. He didn't even notice she was shaking. Her heart cracked quietly, without sound. In the unconscious haze of the present, Evelyn placed a hand on her belly. The twins fluttered faintly in this dreamlike space. She whispered, "I'm sorry. I've been trying. I'm trying so hard." She felt the weight of exhaustion, not just physical, but emotional, the kind that corrodes a person from the inside out. Then a voice pierced the darkness. "Evelyn, stay with me." She knew that voice. Warm, steady, familiar, in a distant, comforting way. "Marcus?" His face materialized through the fog, concern etched deeply into his features. She remembered flashes of him, the kind classmate who used to share notes with her, who once confessed she deserved someone who truly saw her. She never took it seriously back then. She thought Graham loved her enough. Now Marcus's presence felt like a rope pulling her away from drowning. His voice grew clearer. "Fight. Don't give up. You're not alone. Not alone." The words wrapped around her like a lifeline. Suddenly, the dream shattered. Pain shot through her abdomen, sharp and urgent. Her breath stuttered, voices blurred together, the real world forcing its way back. "BP dropping, prepare another dose. She's crashing, move, move." Evelyn wanted to speak, to tell them she was trying, but everything slipped again, like water slipping through her fingers. And as consciousness faded, one truth hit her harder than the pain. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore, she was fighting for the two little lives she feared she might never get to meet. The moment the trauma bay doors swung open, Sabrina Lowe stormed forward with the fury of someone who had just watched her carefully constructed world crack down the middle. She wasn't used to being ignored, not by the media, not by her clients, and certainly not by Graham Donovan. Yet here she was, standing in a stark hospital hallway, watching the man who promised her a future stare at another woman like his soul had been ripped out of him. She folded her arms tightly, her jaw tense. "I can't believe this," she muttered. "She's playing you, Graham. I mean, look at the timing, look at the drama." Her voice dripped with accusation. "She's trying to trap you." Graham didn't even turn his head. His gaze stayed locked on the trauma doors where Evelyn had disappeared. "She's fighting for her life, Sabrina." Sabrina's expression hardened. "Convenient, isn't it? Suddenly she's carrying twins. She didn't even tell you. Women like her." "Women like her what?" A voice cut in sharply. Marcus Ellington stood a few feet away, still in scrubs. Gloves removed, but posture rigid with authority. His eyes were cold, darker than Graham had ever seen them. Marcus had been polite earlier. That courtesy was now gone. Sabrina gave a mocking laugh. "Oh, please, don't start acting like she's a saint." She knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted attention, sympathy, probably money. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice but sharpening every syllable. Evelyn Hartman was brought in with significant internal bleeding, elevated cortisol levels, and fetal distress. Those aren't symptoms of manipulation. Those are symptoms of a woman pushed past her limit. Sabrina rolled her eyes. "And you'd know, right? What are you, her personal guardian angel?" Graham finally turned, irritation rising. "That's enough, Sabrina." But she wasn't finished. "No, it's not enough. You and I came here to confirm our baby, our future, and instead we walk into some performance." Her voice rose, drawing attention from nurses nearby. "She's been keeping secrets, Graham. How do we even know those twins are yours?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "Because she's your wife," he snapped. But beneath the tension, something unspoken passed between Marcus and Graham, a question Graham didn't dare ask out loud. Did Marcus know more than he was saying? Sabrina scoffed dramatically. "Honestly, Graham, can't you see what's happening? She let herself get into this condition to win back your attention. It's pathetic." A nurse passing with a chart stopped mid-step, stunned by the cruelty. Even Graham flinched. Marcus stepped forward until he stood right in front of Sabrina. His voice dropped to a quiet, deadly tone. "Let me be clear, so there is no misunderstanding." He pointed toward the trauma bay. "Evelyn is fighting for her life because she has been under severe emotional strain for a long time. Her body is exhausted, her pregnancy is high risk, and your accusations?" His gaze turned razor sharp. "They're not just wrong, they're inhuman." Sabrina's face reddened with humiliation and fury. "Who do you think you are? The doctor trying to keep her alive?" Marcus shot back. "And unless you want to be removed from this floor, I suggest you lower your voice." For a moment, Sabrina seemed at a loss. Graham watched her struggle to regain composure, but her anger was uncontrollable. "So I'm the villain now?" she snapped. "Fine, but don't pretend she didn't do this on purpose. Women pretend all the time." Graham closed his eyes, the weight of her words crashing over him. He wasn't sure what truth was anymore, but he knew one thing. The woman he had left behind had never been manipulative. She had been quiet, patient, and painfully loyal. Sabrina pressed her nails into her palm. "You think she's helpless? You'll see." Marcus's voice cut her off, colder than steel. "You have no idea what kind of woman Evelyn is," he said, "but you're about to find out." And just then, a nurse rushed out of the trauma bay, breathless, wide-eyed, ready to deliver news that would shake all three of them. Chaos rippled through the hallway as the nurse ran toward Graham, her voice trembling with urgency that cut straight through the tension Sabrina had stirred. "Mr. Donovan," she said, breathless, "your wife is being moved to the fetal assessment unit. The bleeding has slowed, but she's not out of danger." The bleeding has slowed, but she's not out of danger. Graham felt the world tighten around him, a cold pressure building behind his ribs as he tried to breathe. Sabrina stepped closer, lowering her sunglasses as if the right expression might regain control of the situation. "Tell me you're not buying all this," she whispered. "They're exaggerating to make her look fragile." Marcus appeared again, clipboard in hand, posture rigid with authority. "We need cooperation," he stated. "Evelyn's vitals are unstable, and the babies are under stress." Graham swallowed hard, guilt and disbelief twisting together like a knot he couldn't loosen. "Can I see her?" he asked, voice thin. "Not yet," Marcus replied, "but you should know something." Sabrina's brows shot up. "Here we go," she muttered. Marcus ignored her. "Your wife arrived with cortisol levels consistent with long-term emotional strain," he said. "This didn't happen overnight." The implication hung heavy in the air. Graham felt heat rise in his face. "Are you saying I'm responsible?" Marcus didn't flinch. "I'm saying she didn't get this sick on her own." Sabrina scoffed. "This is insane. She probably neglected herself on purpose." Even the nurse standing nearby shot Sabrina a horrified look. "Ma'am," the nurse said, "your comments are not appropriate." But Sabrina pressed on. "Everything about this feels staged." Graham turned toward her, his eyes dark with something she had never seen in him before. "Enough," he said. "This isn't about you." Sabrina froze. No one had ever dismissed her so sharply. "Not about me?" she echoed. "I'm carrying your—" She stopped when she noticed Marcus's expression shift. "Is something wrong?" Graham asked. Marcus exhaled. Her ultrasound results came back. Sabrina lifted her chin. "Finally." "There's no pregnancy," Marcus said. His voice was steady, but the words sliced through the hallway. Silence crashed down. Sabrina blinked. "Excuse me?" "You're not pregnant," Marcus repeated. "The tests are conclusive." Graham stared, shock draining the color from his face. "But she lied," Marcus said. "And she put your wife's life at risk with this scene." Sabrina's composure shattered. "That's impossible," she whispered. I felt symptoms." "Psychosomatic," Marcus replied. "Stress can imitate pregnancy signs." Graham stepped back, betrayal hitting him in sickening waves. "Sabrina," he said, voice trembling. "Why?" Sabrina looked between them, panic rising. "I did it for us," she insisted. "To protect our future." Marcus shook his head. "Your lie almost cost 2 real babies their lives." A piercing alarm sounded from the trauma bay. The nurse sprinted back. "We need the father now. The babies are crashing." Graham felt his soul rip open as he lunged forward. He raced after the nurse, heart pounding with a terror he had never experienced in any boardroom or crisis. The hallway blurred around him, every step fueled by a desperate instinct he didn't know he still possessed. Behind him, Sabrina called his name, but her voice sounded distant, hollow, already fading from the space she once occupied so easily. Marcus moved quickly beside him, guiding him toward the monitors where Evelyn's fragile vitals flickered like dying lights trying to hold on. "She can hear you," Marcus said. "Talk to her. She needs to know she's not alone." Graham swallowed hard, stepping to the bed. And as the trauma doors slammed behind him, one truth echoed in his chest. He might be seconds away from losing everything he never realized he wanted to keep. The penthouse on Fifth Avenue had never felt so suffocating. Hours earlier, it had been a symbol of control, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, designer furniture placed with calculated perfection, the faint scent of Dior candles drifting through the air. Now it felt like a glass prison reflecting everything Graham had tried to avoid seeing in himself. He stood in the living room, pacing restlessly, while sirens from the street echoed below. The hospital had sent him home temporarily after stabilizing Evelyn. Marcus insisted she needed rest, not more emotional pressure. But being forced to leave her side gnawed at him like an ache he couldn't shake. Every corner of the penthouse revealed pieces of her he'd ignored. Her favorite mug, the blue ceramic one with a chipped handle, still sat on the counter. He'd told her it looked cheap next to their luxury set. She kept it anyway. Her soft beige sweater was draped over the couch where she used to wait for him. Hours past dinner, always hoping he'd come home early, just this once. He rarely did. A worn copy of Women Who Run with the Wolves rested beside her nightstand, filled with sticky notes. He had never noticed them before. He'd never bothered to ask why she was reading it. Graham sank onto the edge of the bed, burying his hands in his hair. He had thought success excused distance. That providing the finest things, a penthouse, jewelry, vacations, meant he was being a good husband. But Evelyn had never wanted those things. She wanted warmth, presence, partnership, and he had given her silence. His phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen. "Sabrina, we need to talk. This isn't over. Call me." Graham's jaw clenched. The image of Sabrina in the hallway, furious, jealous, unhinged, played back in his mind. Her lies had nearly collided with Evelyn's life at the worst possible moment. He deleted the message without responding. His chest tightened again. He pressed his palm over it, trying to breathe through the guilt pressing like a weight. Then he noticed something he had never seen before. A small wooden box sat half hidden under Evelyn's pillow. He pulled it out cautiously. Inside were ultrasound images, faint, early ones. Weeks old. Evelyn had known. She'd known for a long time. There were also letters, some addressed to "my little ones," others left blank. Her handwriting was steady, tender, filled with words she had never spoken aloud. "I hope your father is ready to love you the way I already do. I'm scared, but I'm trying. I want you to grow up in a home where love feels safe. Maybe he'll change when he knows about you. Maybe he'll remember the man he used to be." Graham felt the breath leave his body. He pressed the heel of his hand to his eyes, trying to force back the sting there. He hadn't just failed as a husband. He had failed as a father before he ever had the chance to be one. A sudden knock broke through his thoughts. He opened the door to find Marcus standing there, still in scrubs, exhaustion shadowing his face. Graham's stomach lurched. "Is she?" "She's stable," Marcus said, "for now." Relief hit him so fast his knees weakened. "But she asked for space," Marcus continued. "You're overwhelming her." Graham swallowed. "I want to fix this." Marcus's gaze sharpened not with hostility, but truth. "This isn't something you fix in a day. She's been breaking for a long time, and she was breaking alone." The words pierced deeper than accusation. Before Graham could respond, Marcus added, quieter this time, "If you really want to help her, be honest with yourself, and decide who you're going to be when she wakes up." Marcus turned to leave. And as the door closed, Graham realized the greatest threat wasn't losing Evelyn, it was facing the version of himself she'd been surviving. Morning light filtered through the thin hospital curtains, painting soft lines across the room where Evelyn finally stirred. Machines hummed softly around her, steady now instead of alarming. Her breathing, although weak, had found a rhythm again. She blinked slowly, adjusting to the dim glow, and realized for the first time since collapsing that she was conscious, truly conscious. Marcus sat in a chair beside her, reviewing her chart on his tablet. The dark circles under his eyes made him look older, but when he noticed she was awake, relief washed over his face like a tide. "You scared everyone," he said gently, "especially the babies." Evelyn swallowed, her throat raw. "Are they okay?" "For now," Marcus replied, "but you need absolute rest. No stress, no shocks, do you understand?" She nodded, though anxiety tugged at her. The last thing she remembered was collapsing at work, the world spinning, fear crushing her chest. Then voices, chaos, and a strange mixture of pain and floating. "What happened?" she whispered. Marcus hesitated. "There was a scare, severe blood pressure drops. You lost some blood, but we got to you in time." Evelyn closed her eyes in gratitude. And Graham? She asked quietly, though she wasn't sure she wanted the answer. Marcus's jaw tightened. He was here. Evelyn flinched. He caused you distress, Marcus continued, softer now. That's part of what pushed your body beyond its limit. You've been carrying far too much alone. Her eyes welled, but she forced the tears back. She wasn't fragile, not anymore. She had spent months swallowing her pain, keeping her body steady for the twins, hoping Graham would eventually choose their family over the glittering world that had stolen him. He didn't know about the babies, she murmured. I figured, Marcus replied. But that doesn't excuse his behavior. Silence settled over the room. Evelyn felt the weight of everything she had endured, loneliness, neglect, fear, press against her ribs. She had convinced herself that someday Graham would notice her again. But someday had never come. Marcus leaned forward. Evelyn, you deserve better than this. She looked at him, startled. In Marcus's eyes, she saw something she had brushed aside for years: concern, respect, a depth of care she never allowed herself to acknowledge. Before she could respond, the door opened. Graham stepped inside. His usual confidence had evaporated. His suit jacket was wrinkled, his tie crooked, his face drawn with sleepless worry. He looked nothing like the untouchable billionaire who strutted into the hospital with Sabrina at his side. Evelyn, he breathed. Her heart fluttered in startled pain. She wasn't sure if it was longing, anger, or exhaustion. Marcus immediately rose. She shouldn't be stressed. You have 5 minutes. Graham nodded without objection, the first sign that something inside him had shifted. He approached the bed slowly. I didn't know, he whispered. Evelyn, you should have told me. She stared at him, numb. Would you have listened? The question hit him harder than anything Marcus had said. He dragged a hand through his hair. I've made mistakes, I know that, but seeing you today, seeing what happened, Evelyn, I'm sorry. Her throat tightened. She wanted to believe him. Part of her still loved the man he used to be, but apologies didn't erase months of pain. Graham reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the wooden box he'd found at home. I went to the penthouse, he said. I saw everything, the letters, the ultrasounds. His voice cracked. I didn't deserve any of it. Her breath hitched. And there's something else, he added quietly. Something I need to tell you. Something I should have said a long time ago. Marcus watched sharply. Graham inhaled deeply. Evelyn, the twins aren't the only secret in this marriage. I've been hiding something that will change everything you think you know about us. Evelyn's heartbeat picked up, the monitor beside her beeping just enough for Marcus to shoot Graham a warning glare. Keep your voice calm, he said. If her vitals spike, your conversation ends. Graham nodded, pale and visibly shaken. He looked at Evelyn as though he were about to confess a lifetime of sins. There's something you don't know, he began, voice trembling. Something I should have told you before we ever talked about starting a family. Evelyn's fingers curled weakly in the blanket. What is it? Graham swallowed hard. I was diagnosed with infertility years ago, long before we married. The doctors said my chances of fathering children were almost zero. Her breath stalled. He continued, words spilling out in a rush. I didn't tell you because I was ashamed, and I thought if you knew, you'd see me differently. I convinced myself we'd figure it out eventually. But time passed, and I kept avoiding the conversation. Evelyn tried to steady her breathing. So all this time, you let me believe it was my body failing us? Graham closed his eyes, guilt crashing through him. I'm sorry. I was selfish. I thought I was protecting myself, not thinking about what that silence would do to you. Marcus stepped closer to Evelyn. Do you need a break? He asked softly. But Evelyn shook her head. She needed to hear it, every part of it. Graham forced himself to continue. When Sabrina said she was pregnant, I panicked. I shouldn't have believed her so easily. I shouldn't have let anyone make me forget what mattered. But I was already halfway down a road I didn't know how to leave. Evelyn's eyes stung. And now that you know the twins are real, what, Graham? You come running back with regret? He flinched as if she'd struck him. No, he whispered. I came because I needed to face the truth. Those babies, whether you think they're mine or not, they're yours. And they matter. You matter, more than I let myself see. Evelyn looked away, blinking back tears. For months, she'd lived in silence, afraid of losing a man who had already left her emotionally. The weight of it pressed hard against her ribs. Marcus stepped in, crossing his arms. Evelyn needs stability, peace, not confusion. Graham met his eyes. I'm not here to take advantage of her vulnerability. I just want her to have the truth. Marcus didn't look convinced. Evelyn took a shaky breath. Why now, Graham? Why tell me this today, in this room, after everything? He hesitated, then spoke with a rawness she had never heard from him. Because seeing you on that gurney, I realized everything I thought mattered. Money, image, attention meant nothing if you weren't here. And I knew the lies I told myself were part of what pushed us to this point. Evelyn let silence wash over them. She felt fragile, but there was a flicker of strength inside her, growing brighter. Something had shifted. For once, she wasn't the one begging for understanding. I don't know what this means for us, she murmured. You don't have to decide now, Graham said quickly. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know the truth. Marcus watched her carefully, protective in a way that soothed her more than she expected. Evelyn lifted her gaze to Graham again. If you want to help me, she said softly, prove that you can change your behavior, not just your words. Graham nodded solemnly. I will. A knock sounded at the door. A nurse peeked in. Dr. Ellington, we need you. There's a development in the fetal monitoring. Marcus's expression sharpened. Excuse me. He stepped out quickly. Graham turned back to Evelyn, fear clouding his features. What does that mean? But Evelyn already knew. The babies were sending another warning. And for the first time, she felt something stronger than fear, an instinct rising within her, preparing for a fight she refused to lose, no matter who stood beside her. The hallway outside Evelyn's room buzzed with tension as nurses hurried toward the fetal monitoring station. Evelyn steadied her breathing, her hands trembling slightly against the sheets. Moments ago, the room had been heavy with confession and regret. Now, a new threat hovered in the air, one she could not afford to ignore. Graham stood frozen near the window, staring at the city skyline as if searching for answers in the gray morning haze. He turned to Evelyn, guilt twisting in his expression. Should I get Marcus, or should I leave? Evelyn shook her head. Just wait. Panicking won't help. Her calm surprised him. She looked fragile in the hospital gown, but the fire in her eyes, small, steady, reminded him of the woman he once promised the world to. He wasn't sure he'd ever really seen her strength before. The door suddenly burst open. A nurse stepped in, face pale. Evelyn, your stress markers are rising again. We need to run a detailed scan right away. Evelyn nodded. She was afraid, but clarity washed over her. She had been fighting alone for too long. Not now. Not anymore. As the nurse wheeled her toward the imaging room, Graham followed, but another voice rose sharply behind them. Absolutely not. You don't get to follow her. Sabrina. She stood in the hallway, makeup smudged, hair wild, clutching her designer purse like a lifeline. Security lingered nearby, clearly having escorted her back inside after she'd attempted to leave the building earlier. Her eyes locked on Evelyn with a fury that made Graham's stomach twist. You've ruined everything, Sabrina hissed. You and your little dramatic collapse, how convenient. The nurse stiffened. Ma'am, this is a restricted area. You need to step back. But Sabrina pushed forward. No, I want answers. I want to know why everyone is suddenly acting like she's the victim when I'm the one whose life is falling apart. Graham's eyes hardened. Because you lied, Sabrina, about everything. Her face crumpled, but not with regret, with rage. I lied for us, she shot back. For the future you promised me. And now what? You come running to her because she fainted? Evelyn's breath hitched, but she kept her voice calm. Sabrina, this isn't about competition. I'm just trying to survive. Oh please, Sabrina snapped. You survived just fine when you were playing wife in your fancy penthouse, pretending you were better than everyone else. Evelyn blinked, stunned. I never. Yes, you did, Sabrina cut in. Do you know how long I waited for him to leave you? Years. Years. And he kept telling me, soon. But then you show up pregnant twins, really? And suddenly he's acting like he cares? Graham stepped between them. Enough. I'm not letting you near her. Sabrina's voice dropped to a bitter whisper. You think the world will sympathize with her? With you? She looked around at the bustling hospital. Just wait until they find out what your perfect husband has been hiding. Evelyn stiffened. What are you talking about? Sabrina's lips curled into a cruel smile. Oh, he didn't tell you? He wasn't just seeing me. Graham's breath stopped. Evelyn felt her pulse spike. Sabrina leaned closer, her whisper slicing through the air. There were others. The nurse gasped. Graham went pale. But before Evelyn could react, Marcus stormed down the hall, eyes blazing. Enough, he barked. Sabrina Lowe, you're violating hospital policy. Security, please escort her out. 2 guards stepped in, taking Sabrina by the arms. She thrashed once, desperate and furious. You can't shut me up. The world's going to know everything, everything. Her voice echoed down the hall as she was dragged away. Silence settled, heavy and painful. Graham looked at Evelyn, fear etched deep in his face. Evelyn, She held up a weak hand. Not now, she whispered. Her heart was racing. Her babies needed calm. She needed clarity. Marcus approached gently. Evelyn, we need to run that scan now. The twins are reacting to all this. Evelyn nodded, exhaling a shaky breath. As they wheeled her toward the imaging suite, one truth pulsed through her chest. The worst betrayals might not even be revealed yet, and the next revelation could change the fate of her family forever. The boardroom at Donovan Global Holdings had never been silent before. It was normally a battlefield of power suits, clinking Mont Blanc pens, and sharp exchanges about quarterly projections. But today, the silence was brutal, heavy, waiting. Graham stepped inside with the weight of the morning still clinging to him like a second skin. His disheveled tie, the exhaustion lining his face, the faint scent of hospital antiseptic on his sleeves, none of it belonged in this polished, glass-walled empire he'd built. Yet here he was, summoned urgently by the board. A tall man in a charcoal suit cleared his throat. We need to begin. The board chair, Leonard Strauss, adjusted his glasses and fixed a pointed stare at Graham. There are photographs, Graham. You arriving at Mount Sinai with a woman who is not your wife, and moments later being escorted out by security due to a disturbance. Graham stiffened. That was Sabrina. She caused the disturbance. She lied. Lied or not, Strauss interrupted. It is public, already circulating, and investors are reacting. Another board member slid a tablet across the table. Headlines blared from financial news outlets. Donovan CEO involved in hospital scandal. Crisis erupts as pregnancy drama goes public. Graham felt a sharp pain behind his eyes. The timing could not have been worse. Evelyn fighting for her life. The twins in danger. Sabrina's meltdown. And now this. We have concerns, Strauss continued. Your personal life is destabilizing the company. Graham's jaw tightened. My wife nearly died this morning. A beat of silence. A woman at the far end of the table spoke gently. We're aware, and we're sorry for what she's going through. But your judgment concerning external relationships has impacted more than your marriage. Another board member leaned forward, tapping the table lightly. There are rumors you've been involved with multiple women. Whether true or not, the optics are catastrophic. Graham felt heat rise up his neck. Sabrina's poisonous whisper. There were others echoed in his ears. Lies or exaggerations didn't matter now. Damage did. We're asking you to step back, Strauss said, temporarily, until this is resolved. Step back? Graham repeated. You want to remove me from my own company? It's not punishment, Strauss replied. It's containment. Investors need assurance. The company needs stability. Graham's hands curled into fists. For years, he had poured his life into this corporation, his late nights, his early mornings, his marriage sacrifices, and now everything was slipping through his fingers like dust. A younger board member, a friend of Marcus's from med school days, spoke up quietly. And, Graham, there's another issue. The press found out your wife's pregnancy is high risk. They're questioning your absence during her medical crisis. Graham froze. This isn't just corporate fallout, the man continued. It's a moral one. An ache spread across Graham's chest, sharp and humiliating. I'm not walking away, he said, voice tight. Not now. You don't have a choice, Strauss replied. This vote is already done. The words hit like a blow. He'd lost control of his marriage, of his reputation, and now of the empire he'd built. For a long moment, no one spoke. Manhattan's skyline glittered outside the windows, cold and indifferent. Finally, Graham rose. I need to be with my wife. A few board members exchanged looks, some sympathetic, some disappointed, some quietly relieved that he was leaving without a fight. As he stepped out of the boardroom, the hallway was flooded with late afternoon light. His reflection glinted in the polished marble. He looked older than he had that morning. More fragile. More human. His phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. "We need you at the hospital. There's been a new development. Hurry." Graham didn't wait another second. He sprinted toward the elevators, heart pounding. Because whatever waited for him next, good or bad, he sensed it would rewrite everything he thought he still had left. And this time, he knew he couldn't afford to be late. The hospital room was dim when Evelyn woke again, the soft glow of evening settling against the walls. Her breathing felt steadier, though each inhale carried a quiet ache. She could hear faint voices from the hallway, nurses exchanging shifts, the muted hum of machines, the steady rhythm of hospital life moving around her. But something was different. The air felt heavier, as if the world was holding itself still, waiting for her next move. She pressed a hand gently to her belly. The twins shifted faintly beneath her palm, a reminder that she wasn't alone, that her body was still fighting for them. She exhaled shakily. "I'm still here," she whispered. A soft knock sounded. Marcus entered, closing the door behind him. His expression was calm but serious, the kind of look he reserved for conversations that mattered. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Exhausted," she admitted. "But present." He nodded. "Good. We need you present." She frowned. "What happened?" Marcus hesitated before pulling a small monitor closer. "The latest scan shows an issue with baby A's heart rate. It's not critical yet, but it's something we have to monitor closely." Evelyn felt a tremor move through her. "Is it because of the stress earlier?" "It didn't help," he said gently. "But there's good news too. Your vitals have improved, and your body is responding to the medication." Relief mixed with fear. "What now? You rest, you stay calm, and you let us handle everything else." She nodded, though her heart was restless. She hated needing help. She hated feeling weak. She hated that her children's lives were being shaped by chaos she could not control. The door opened again. Graham stepped inside, breathless, suit jacket wrinkled as though he hadn't stopped moving since Marcus called. His eyes darted to Evelyn, and something inside him seemed to unravel. "You're awake," he said quietly. Evelyn stiffened. "I'm fine." Marcus cleared his throat. "I'll give you two a moment. I'll be right outside." When the door closed, Graham approached slowly, as if afraid he might break her by walking too loudly. "I came as fast as I could," he said. Marcus said. "I know," she cut in softly. "He told me." Silence stretched between them. Graham looked around the room, at the IV line in her arm, the fetal monitors, the blanket pulled high over her abdomen, and guilt washed over him again. "I left the board meeting," he said. "They forced me to step down. Temporarily." Evelyn didn't react. "I figured it was coming." He blinked. "You did? You've been unraveling for months, Graham. I saw it even when you didn't." Her voice wasn't cruel. It was calm, almost tired, and somehow that hurt him more. He moved closer. "I want to be here now. With you. With the babies. Whatever it takes." Evelyn looked at him carefully, studying every angle of his face. "You say that because you're scared. Not because you've changed." He shook his head. "No, Graham," she said gently, "fear isn't love." He froze. "Love is showing up before the crisis," she continued. "Love is listening the first time someone cries out. Love isn't running back when everything else falls apart." A tear slipped down his cheek, something she hadn't seen since their early years together. "You're right," he whispered. "I failed you. And I don't expect forgiveness. But I want to fight for you. For the twins. I want to earn the chance I threw away." Evelyn inhaled shakily. She wasn't ready to forgive him, but she also wasn't ready to condemn him entirely. Not yet. Before she could answer, a sudden alarm beeped sharply. Graham jumped. "What is that?" A nurse rushed in. "Baby A's heart rate is dipping again. We need to reposition her." Marcus followed quickly, his face grave. "Graham, step back," he said firmly. Graham stumbled away as the medical team surrounded the bed. Evelyn gripped the rails, her voice trembling. "Please, just save them." Marcus met her eyes. "We will?" Graham could only watch, helpless and terrified, as the monitors flashed warnings. And in that moment, he realized the truth. This wasn't about him anymore. This was about whether the family he'd taken for granted would survive the night. The room felt colder, as the medical team adjusted Evelyn's position, elevating her hips to relieve pressure on the babies. The monitors flickered with unstable lines, each beep slicing through the silence like a warning Evelyn could feel in her bones. She clutched the blanket, forcing herself to breathe through the rising panic. Marcus stood at the foot of the bed, eyes narrowed with clinical focus. "Come on," he murmured to the screen. "Give me something better." The nurse repositioned a sensor on Evelyn's abdomen. "Baby A still isn't responding well," she said quietly. Evelyn swallowed hard. "Please don't let anything happen to them," she whispered, voice trembling. Marcus looked up, his expression softening. "We're doing everything. You're doing everything." Behind them, Graham hovered near the wall, hands shaking. He felt useless. No, worse than useless. He felt responsible. The consequences of months of emotional neglect were now echoing through machines, turning into numbers that spelled danger. "Is it my fault?" he whispered, unable to stop himself. "All this stress, did I cause this?" Neither Marcus nor the nurse answered, but the silence said enough. Evelyn closed her eyes. She didn't want to blame him, not right now, not when fear hung thick in the air, but the truth hovered between them like smoke. The nurse checked the monitor again. "Rates still dropping." Marcus straightened. "We're not waiting. Prep the oxygen mask. We need to stabilize her before we decide our next step." Evelyn's heart thudded painfully. "Next step?" Marcus avoided her eyes just long enough for her to understand. "Possible emergency delivery. Too early. Too dangerous." Her throat tightened as the nurse gently fit the oxygen mask over her face. "It's just precaution," the nurse assured softly. "Try to relax." Relax. The word felt impossible. Graham stepped toward the bed. "Ev, I'm here." Evelyn opened her eyes, watching him through the fog of worry. "I know," she whispered, though the words felt fragile. Marcus nodded to the team. They dimmed the lights to calm the fetal environment. One nurse applied gentle pressure to Evelyn's belly, shifting baby A's position. Another adjusted the IV medications to support blood flow. Minutes passed in aching slowness. Then finally, a spike on the monitor. Marcus let out a breath. "There, that's better." The nurse offered a relieved smile. Heart rate stabilizing. Evelyn felt tears slip down her temples, soaking into the pillow. Relief made her knees weak even though she wasn't standing. Graham exhaled shakily, gripping the railing beside her bed. "Thank God." But Marcus held up a cautioning hand. "We're not out of danger yet. The babies are responding now, but Evelyn's margin for stress is razor thin. Anything could trigger another episode." He turned to Graham, gaze firm. "Which means no more emotional shocks, no arguments, no confessions, no drama. Understood?" Graham nodded. "I understand." But Marcus wasn't done. "You said earlier you want to help her," he said. "Then you need to stop focusing on your guilt and start focusing on her needs. She has been carrying this pregnancy with more courage than you've shown in a long time. Match her." Graham absorbed the words like blows he deserved. Evelyn watched them, exhausted. "Marcus," she said softly, "please, enough for tonight." He paused, then nodded. "All right." He stepped closer, brushing a reassuring hand along the rail. "You did well, Evelyn. They're fighters, just like you." She offered a faint smile. When Marcus and the nurse stepped out to update the chart, the room fell quiet again. Only the rhythmic beeping filled the space. Graham sank into the chair beside her. "I don't deserve to be here," he admitted, voice rough. "No," she agreed softly. "But right now, I need everyone who cares to stay." Graham's eyes shone not with triumph, but with humility. "I'm not leaving again," he said. But before Evelyn could respond, another sound echoed from the hallway, hurried footsteps, urgent voices. Something else was happening, and the next person who burst through that door would change the night in a way none of them expected. The footsteps grew louder, quick, and purposeful, until the door swung open, and a young resident doctor rushed inside, clutching a tablet. Her cheeks were flushed, eyes wide with urgency. "Dr. Ellington needs you both in the consultation room right now," she said, breathless. "There's been a development." Evelyn's pulse skipped. Graham stood immediately. "Is it the twins?" The resident shook her head. "Not directly, but it concerns your wife's chart and the events earlier today." She glanced nervously at Evelyn. "It's important. Marcus appeared behind her, his expression unreadable. "Evelyn, are you stable enough to sit up for a moment?" She nodded, though anxiety tightened every muscle in her body. "What's going on?" He hesitated. "We discovered something about what happened before you arrived, something we didn't notice at first." Graham exchanged a tense look with Evelyn. "Tell us." Marcus guided a nurse to adjust Evelyn's bed into a half-seated position. "Your vitals are steady, but you both need to hear this calmly." Once Evelyn was settled, Marcus held the tablet so they could see the screen. This came from the hospital's security system, a camera in the ambulance bay. The video showed the chaos of her arrival, paramedics rushing her into the ER. But then, another figure appeared in the frame. Sabrina. She wasn't running or panicked. She was standing in the shadows near the entrance, watching. Graham's stomach dropped. What is she doing there?" Marcus pressed play. Sabrina stepped closer to the building, pulled out her phone, and filmed Evelyn on the stretcher. Then she turned and said something to someone just out of frame. The resident doctor supplied the missing context. She was speaking to a freelance tabloid photographer. "He's been outside the hospital all day." Evelyn gasped softly. "She filmed me?" Marcus nodded grimly. "She recorded your condition and tried to sell the footage as proof of an unstable spouse." The photographer confirmed it under questioning. Rage flashed through Graham's face. "She exploited Evelyn during a medical emergency." "It gets worse," Marcus said quietly. "She told the photographer that you," he looked directly at Evelyn, "were faking distress to sabotage her pregnancy." Evelyn closed her eyes, pain rippling through her. "She tried to make me look like a liar, even while I was dying." Marcus's voice hardened. "What she did was not only unethical, it was criminal, and the hospital has already contacted legal counsel." Graham surged forward, fists clenched. "I'm pressing charges." Marcus didn't argue. But then the resident turned the tablet to reveal the second half of the footage, grainier, but clear enough to show Sabrina stepping into the restricted ambulance lane and grabbing a small white envelope from her purse. She held it over a trash bin, then dropped it. Marcus paused the frame. "We recovered that envelope." He placed a sealed evidence bag onto Evelyn's blanket. Inside were 2 prenatal ultrasound photos, not Evelyn's. Sabrina's. Except they were fake. The resident explained. The dates were altered. The images were taken from an online case study, not from an actual pregnancy. She planted them to strengthen her story in case the media questioned her. Evelyn felt a cold shiver crawl up her spine. She was willing to ruin my reputation while I was unconscious, just to protect her lie. Graham's hands trembled as he stared at the evidence. "I can't believe I trusted her. I let her this close to our lives." Marcus spoke gently but firmly. "Graham, this wasn't just manipulation. This was strategy. She targeted Evelyn. She targeted your marriage. And she knew exactly how to twist the story." Evelyn drew a slow breath, steadying herself. "She wanted me gone, completely." Graham sank into the chair beside her. "She nearly got what she wanted." Marcus rested a hand on the rail of her bed. "But she didn't. And now the truth is coming out." Evelyn nodded slowly, strength returning to her voice. "Let her lies surface. Let the world see who she really is." Graham met her gaze. "I'll protect you. I swear it." But Marcus's expression shifted, stern, cautious. "This is only the beginning. Because once Sabrina realizes we uncovered the footage," he paused, "she won't go down quietly, and the next move she makes could change everything." The hospital conference room felt colder than the rest of the floor, its glass walls revealing a nighttime Manhattan skyline sparkling like shattered diamonds. Graham paced along the window while Marcus reviewed medical charts, and Evelyn rested in a wheelchair beside the table, wrapped in a soft hospital blanket. She insisted on being part of the meeting. Despite her weakness, she refused to be left in the dark again. Finally, Marcus closed the file. "All right, you're both caught up on Sabrina's staged photos and the footage. But there's another problem." Evelyn exhaled, bracing herself. "Go on." Marcus slid his phone across the table. On the screen were screenshots from social media, sensational posts spreading rapidly. Donovan CEO's wife fakes medical crisis. Insider claims drama used to trap husband. Twins or twist? Evelyn's stomach twisted. "This is about me?" "About the version of you Sabrina crafted," Marcus said grimly. Someone fed the media a narrative that you staged this entire medical emergency to ruin her life. Graham's face reddened with fury. This is insane. Evelyn nearly died. Why would anyone believe this garbage? Marcus lifted an eyebrow. Because Sabrina is pushing it into the algorithm. We traced multiple burner accounts directly to her device. Evelyn closed her eyes, trying to slow her breathing. The stress pressed against her chest, threatening to drag her back into panic. But Marcus stepped beside her. "Hey," he said gently, "look at me." She opened her eyes. "You survived worse than rumors," he said, "and you're not fighting this alone anymore." Something eased inside her, tight but real. Graham sat across from them, shoulders heavy, guilt carved deep into the lines on his face. "We need to shut her down legally. Immediately." "That's already in progress," Marcus replied. "But you need to understand something else." He turned the tablet around. A financial graph appeared, sharp dips, red lines. "The company is bleeding," Marcus said bluntly. "Your board has already leaked that you were removed from your position earlier today." Graham flinched. "They weren't supposed to publicize that." "They didn't," Marcus corrected. "Sabrina did." Evelyn gasped. "How would she know?" Graham's eyes went wide, realization dawning like a punch. "I told her," he whispered, horrified. "I told her days ago that the board was getting anxious. She must have been preparing for this scandal even then." Marcus nodded. "She's not just reacting, she's strategizing. And she's cornered now." Cornered people lash out. As if on cue, Evelyn's monitor beeped from her wheelchair, her pulse climbing. Marcus knelt beside her, lowering his voice. "Deep breaths. Don't let her steal anything else from you." Evelyn swallowed hard. "I'm trying." Graham reached out but hesitated before touching her hand. "Ev, I'm going to fix this. I know my words don't mean much right now, but I swear to you, I will make this right." She didn't pull away, but she didn't lean toward him either. Her silence said everything. They were interrupted by the sudden ring of Marcus's phone. He answered sharply. "Ellington." A pause. His face hardened. "When?" Another pause, longer, tighter. He closed his eyes. "Understood. Keep her secure. Call hospital security and notify legal." He ended the call. Evelyn's breath hitched. "Marcus, what happened?" He turned to them, voice steady but chilling. "Sabrina just broke into the PR wing of Donovan Holdings." Graham's eyes widened. "She what?" "She accessed internal documents. Attempts to leak internal memos about your wife's condition. Her goal is clear now. She wants to paint Evelyn as unstable, unfit, manipulative. She wants to destroy your marriage publicly, permanently." Evelyn felt her pulse spike again, the pressure tightening like an invisible hand squeezing her lungs. Marcus placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Stay with me. This isn't the end of your story. She's losing control, that's why she's escalating." Graham's voice trembled. "If she leaks anything else, my company, my reputation." Marcus cut him off. "Forget your company. The person in danger here," he motioned to Evelyn, "is your wife. Not your brand." A knock sounded at the door. A security officer stepped halfway inside. "Sir, we have confirmation," he said. "Sabrina Lowe is headed here. She's in the building." Evelyn's breath froze. Graham's fists clenched. Marcus straightened, eyes narrowing with protective fire. Because whatever Sabrina planned next, it was coming straight toward Evelyn, and this time, the damage wouldn't just be online. Evelyn's hands tightened around the blanket as the words echoed through the room. "Sabrina is in the building. Not online. Not behind fake accounts. Not hiding behind leaked rumors. Here, in the hospital, coming straight toward her." Marcus stepped forward, his entire posture shifting, protective, sharp, ready. "Security is tracking her movement. She's on the 4th floor heading toward maternity." Graham cursed under his breath, already reaching for his phone. "I'll call building security. She cannot be allowed anywhere near Evelyn." But before he could dial, Marcus plucked the phone from his hand. "Focus. Panic makes you sloppy. Let me handle security." He spoke with the authority of someone used to taking control during emergencies, not boardrooms. Evelyn forced herself to breathe steadily, even as fear tightened her chest. Why is she doing this? What more could she possibly want? Marcus turned back to her. Control, power, revenge. When people with her personality feel exposed, they fight harder. "This isn't about you anymore, it's about her losing the narrative." Graham scrubbed a hand over his face. She's unraveling. I should have seen it sooner. Evelyn looked at him, her voice quiet but steady. You didn't want to see it. He froze at the truth in her words. A nurse rushed into the room, slightly out of breath. Dr. Ellington Sabrina bypassed the visitor desk. She said she's a close family member and demanded to see Mrs. Donovan. They didn't believe her, but she's persistent. Marcus's jaw tensed. Meaning? She's refusing to leave, the nurse whispered. Security is escorting her out, but she's yelling that she has a story the world needs to hear. Evelyn's chest tightened. She's trying to provoke something. She wants chaos. Graham turned toward the door as if ready to confront Sabrina himself, but Marcus blocked him with one firm hand. No, you'll only escalate her. She feeds on confrontation. So, what do we do? Graham demanded. We wait, Marcus said. Security will remove her. But something in his voice, careful, measured, told Evelyn he was preparing for more. A tense silence fell until another knock interrupted them. This time, it wasn't frantic. It was sharp, deliberate. Everyone froze. A security officer stepped inside again, face tight with concern. She got away from the escort. She slipped through a patient hallway. We lost visual, but she's definitely still on this floor. Graham's face drained of color. How is that even possible? Mr. Donovan, she's resourceful. Marcus exhaled slowly, then turned to Evelyn. You're not staying in this open room. I'm moving you somewhere secure. Evelyn's pulse spiked. Where? The surgical observation suite. Restricted access. No one gets in without clearance. The nurse nodded immediately. I'll prepare transport. As they began to wheel her out, Evelyn felt the hospital hallway stretch before them. Bright lights, quiet footsteps, a strange stillness that made every shadow seem threatening. Graham walked beside her, eyes scanning every corner. She's not getting anywhere near you again. I swear it. Evelyn didn't answer. Part of her still didn't trust his promises, but she appreciated the fear in his voice, the fear of losing what he finally realized mattered. As they turned down a corridor, a voice sliced through the air. Well, isn't this touching? Everyone stopped. Sabrina stepped out from behind a linen cart, mascara smudged, hair wild, eyes burning with a frantic determination that made Evelyn's blood run cold. Her designer coat hung off one shoulder, and she clutched a stack of papers, Evelyn's stolen medical records. Marcus instantly stepped in front of Evelyn. You need to leave. Right now. But Sabrina smiled, a chilling curve of her lips. Oh, I'll leave. But not before she hears the truth. She pointed at Evelyn. You ruined everything. You took everything from me. I took nothing from you, Evelyn whispered. Yes, you did, Sabrina shrieked. You took him back. Graham stepped forward. Sabrina, enough. No, she snapped. She needs to hear what kind of man you are. Tell her, Graham. Tell her you didn't only cheat with me. Tell her about— Stop talking, Marcus barked, taking a step closer. Sabrina's eyes narrowed, and she clutched the papers tighter. I'm not leaving until I finish what I started. Security rounded the corner behind her, shouting her name. But Sabrina didn't flinch. She looked straight at Evelyn. You think he's changed? You think he's the man who will stand beside you now? Evelyn held her breath. Sabrina lifted the papers and opened her mouth to expose a secret Evelyn never imagined was coming. What Sabrina revealed next would shatter what little trust remained and force Evelyn to choose between the past that broke her and the future that might save her. Sabrina tightened her grip on the crumpled medical papers, her chest heaving as security closed in behind her. But she didn't run. She didn't hide. She lifted her chin with the desperation of someone who knew this was her final blow, her last chance to hurt Evelyn, to hurt Graham, to make someone bleed the way she believed she had bled. You want the truth? Sabrina spat, eyes burning. Fine, here it is. Marcus stepped in front of Evelyn again. Don't say another word. But Sabrina shoved the documents toward Graham. Tell her what these mean. Tell her why you never planned a future with her. She turned to Evelyn with a twisted smile. Your perfect husband was planning to divorce you long before I came into the picture. Graham froze, the color draining from his face as if someone had cut the ground from under him. Evelyn gripped the arms of her wheelchair. Is that true? Graham opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Sabrina barked a bitter laugh. He didn't tell you? Of course he didn't. He had the paperwork drafted months ago. I saw the emails. He had the lawyer, the settlement outline, everything. Evelyn's breath hitched. Graham? It wasn't like that, he whispered, horrified. Evelyn, I didn't file anything. I didn't go through with it. But you planned to. Her voice cracked, fragile but sharp. While I was trying to save our marriage, you were planning your escape. Sabrina stepped closer, confidence growing as the damage settled in. He told me you were too soft, too gentle, too boring for the life he wanted. He said you didn't fit his world. Why don't you tell her that, Graham? Graham squeezed his eyes shut, devastated. That was before. Before what? Before I got pregnant, Evelyn whispered. Before I almost died in your arms? He swallowed hard. Before I realized how wrong I was. Sabrina scoffed. Too late for that. Marcus finally snapped. Security, take her out. 2 guards approached, but Sabrina jerked away, her voice shrill. No, she needs to hear everything. You think he loves you? He doesn't even know how. Evelyn's vision blurred with dizziness. Her chest tightened. She felt the twins shift uneasily, reacting to her distress. She fought to keep calm, but each word Sabrina hurled chipped away at the fragile strength she had left. Graham stepped closer to Evelyn, voice breaking. I was lost, Evelyn. I was drowning in a lifestyle I didn't know how to leave. I made mistakes, huge mistakes, but I never stopped caring about you. You didn't care enough to stay, she whispered. Sabrina smirked. See? She gets it now. Marcus moved like lightning. He grabbed the stack of papers from Sabrina's hand. These documents have no signatures, no filings, no legal weight. They prove he considered divorce, not that he committed to it. He held the papers up. And considering divorce isn't a crime, manipulating a woman in a hospital bed is. Sabrina lunged toward him with a scream, but security seized her arms. Let me go. She deserves the truth. She deserves to know who he really is. Marcus raised his voice, calm but commanding. We know who you are, Sabrina, and now the world will too. Security dragged her back. Her voice echoed down the hall even as the distance swallowed it. You'll regret choosing her. Both of you. Then she was gone. Silence crashed over the hallway like a wave. Evelyn felt her body tremble. Marcus knelt beside her. Breathe. Don't let her poison get inside you. But her eyes were fixed on Graham. Were you really going to leave me? She asked softly. Graham sank to his knees in front of her wheelchair, eyes red, broken. I was a coward. I didn't know how to fix us. I didn't know how to fix myself. I thought leaving was easier than confronting the truth. His voice trembled. But then I saw you in that hospital bed, and I realized everything I thought I wanted was nothing compared to losing you. A tear slid down her cheek. She didn't forgive him. Not yet. But she listened. Marcus stood, exhaling long and slow. We need to get Evelyn somewhere safe. She can't endure another confrontation like that. Graham nodded. I'll protect her. Whatever it takes. But Marcus shook his head. This time, he said quietly, watching Evelyn with something deep and unspoken in his eyes. Protecting her might not be your job anymore. And in that moment, the balance between them shifted subtly, powerfully setting the stage for a reckoning none of them could avoid. The surgical observation suite was quieter than the regular maternity rooms, soundproofed walls, dim lighting, and restricted access. It felt safer, more controlled, but Evelyn still sensed the leftover tremors of Sabrina's chaos inside her body. She lay back against the adjustable bed while a nurse checked her vitals, the steady beeping of the fetal monitor grounding her. Marcus stood near the foot of the bed, arms crossed, gaze steady. Graham lingered by the door, unsure of whether he still had a place at her side. The tension between the two men was thick, almost tangible, 2 different kinds of protectors, and only one whom Evelyn felt she could fully trust right now. Marcus broke the silence first. Evelyn, your vitals are stabilizing, but your emotional stress is still high. You have to rest. No more confrontations, no more surprises. Evelyn nodded weakly. I'm trying. Graham stepped closer. I can leave, if that helps. She looked at him not coldly, but honestly. I don't want you to leave. I just need space to breathe. He swallowed hard. I understand. But Marcus's gaze sharpened on Graham. Understanding isn't enough. You need to be consistent, steady, supportive, and quiet. Graham bristled. I'm still her husband. Marcus didn't look away. Then act like one. A nurse slipped out, sensing the growing tension. Evelyn exhaled shakily. Please, I can't have you two fighting. Marcus softened immediately. You're right. He stepped back, hands lowering. I'm just trying to protect you. Graham stared at the floor, shame thick in his chest. I know you are. Silence settled again before Evelyn finally spoke. Sabrina's words. She hesitated, breathing through the sting of memory. Knowing you considered divorce, Graham, it hurt. More than I can explain. Graham moved slowly to her bedside, as if permitting himself only small steps. I was lost, Ev. I was drowning in expectations I created. I thought divorcing you meant freeing you from my world. I see now that it was fear, not logic. Marcus watched him carefully, searching for truth rather than performance. Evelyn looked down at her hands. Do you still feel that way? No, he said instantly, voice cracked and raw. I'm done running from you, from my failures, from everything I was too afraid to admit. It was a good answer. But Evelyn wasn't the same woman who once clung to his every promise. She'd grown stronger under pressure, sharper through suffering. She wasn't easily moved anymore. Before she could respond, a sharp thump sounded on the monitor. Baby A, shifting. Evelyn winced. Marcus immediately approached. Are you in pain? A little, she whispered, but I'm okay. He adjusted the bed, user precision movements. Graham stood uselessly beside him, watching how naturally Marcus attended to her. After a few moments, Marcus glanced at the doorway. I need to check on new labs. I'll be back in a minute. He slipped out. The moment the door clicked shut, the room felt smaller, filled with the weight of unspoken truths. Graham took a breath. Evelyn, I know I've lost your trust. Maybe I don't deserve another chance, but I want to try. I want to learn how to love you the way you needed all along. Her eyes softened, but didn't surrender. It's not that simple. I know, he paused, gathering courage, but I'll wait for you, as long as it takes. Evelyn's chest tightened in fear, in confusion, in something else she wasn't ready to name. Before she could answer, the door opened again. Marcus returned faster than expected. His expression was different this time. Guarded, heavy, determined. He walked straight to the bed and took Evelyn's hand with a gentleness that made her breath catch. Evelyn, he said quietly, there's something I need to tell you. Something I've been holding back for years. Graham stiffened. Evelyn blinked. What is it? Marcus inhaled deeply, eyes never leaving hers. I should have told you sooner, but I've been in love with you since the day we met. The room froze, every heart beating too loudly, every truth unraveling at once. And nothing would ever be the same again. The words hung in the air like a shockwave, heavy, undeniable, impossible to ignore. I've been in love with you since the day we met. Evelyn's breath stilled. Her fingers twitched inside Marcus's warm, steady grip as the room seemed to contract, drawing all three of them into a single, fragile moment. Graham's reaction was instantaneous. He stepped forward, voice raw. What are you doing? Marcus didn't look at him. His eyes stayed on Evelyn, gentle, vulnerable, painfully honest, telling her the truth. Something she deserved to know long before now. Evelyn's heart raced faster under the monitor. Marcus, you can't just say something like that. Not now. I can, he said softly, because I almost lost you today. Twice. And I realized that if I stayed silent one more day, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. Graham's jaw tightened. This is not the time. Marcus finally turned toward him. It's exactly the time. She deserves clarity, truth from every direction. Something you weren't willing to give her for years. Evelyn flinched at the tension rising again. Please, stop, both of you. Marcus took a careful breath and faced her again. I don't expect anything from you, Evelyn. Not now, not ever. I'm not asking you to choose. I just want you to know that someone has always seen your worth, even when he didn't. Graham stepped closer to the bed, hands shaking. Don't listen to him like this. He's manipulating your vulnerability. Marcus's expression hardened with restrained anger. The only person who manipulated her vulnerability is you. Enough. Evelyn's voice cracked, but it carried authority neither man dared challenge. Silence fell. She wiped a tear from her cheek and looked at Marcus first. I appreciate your honesty, more than you know, but I'm overwhelmed. I need time. He nodded instantly. Of course. Then she turned to Graham. And you? I don't know what to do with everything that's happened between us. Pain crossed his face. Ev, you both want something from me, she whispered. But right now, I can barely keep my babies safe. I can't carry anyone else's emotions. Graham swallowed, ashamed. Marcus looked away, understanding. A soft beep drew Marcus's attention to the fetal monitor. He immediately stepped back into doctor mode, focused, controlled. Baby A and baby B's vitals are steady. Let's keep them that way. Tension eased slightly, though the air remained thick with unspoken conflict. Then the door opened, and a hospital administrator stepped inside, holding a clipboard. Mrs. Donovan? I'm afraid there's a situation downstairs involving the media. We've contained them for now, but someone leaked your room number. Graham stiffened. Sabrina? Marcus growled under his breath. She's escalating again. The administrator continued. Security is responding, but the chief recommended moving Mrs. Donovan to a private suite upstairs, more secure. Marcus nodded. Good. We'll transfer her as soon as possible. But there's more. The administrator added hesitantly. A legal team is here. They have documentation with your name, Mr. Donovan. Graham tensed. What documentation? The administrator handed him a sealed envelope. It's a cease and desist from Sabrina Lowe. She claims she's the one being defamed. Marcus let out a disbelieving laugh. Unbelievable. Evelyn felt a wave of exhaustion crash through her. The world was spinning too fast, too many lies, too many revelations, too many people pulling her in opposite directions. Marcus noticed her paling. Enough. She needs rest. Everyone out. Graham hesitated. I want to stay. No, Marcus said firmly. She needs peace, and you two need space. Leave. Evelyn closed her eyes. Please, Graham. Just for tonight. The request broke something inside him, but he nodded. I'll be right outside if you need me. He stepped out slowly. Marcus adjusted her blanket, voice softer now. Try to sleep. I'm not going anywhere. As her eyes fluttered closed, Evelyn felt the weight of both men's hearts, pressing silently against the edges of her own. But before she drifted into sleep, one final thought surfaced. If love could save her, two different hearts were ready to fight for her, but only one future could survive what came next. Morning light crept into the private suite, soft and golden, touching the edges of Evelyn's blanket like a quiet reassurance. She woke slowly this time, without alarms, without shouting, without Sabrina's venom cutting through the air. For the first time in what felt like months, she breathed without flinching. Her hand instinctively moved to her belly. The twins shifted gently beneath her palm, their movements lighter and calmer than the night before. Relief warmed her chest. A knock sounded, gentle but deliberate. Marcus stepped inside holding a tablet, his scrubs fresh, his eyes tired but steady. Good morning, he said softly. How are you feeling? Better, Evelyn replied. Calmer. That's exactly what we need. He approached with the fetal monitor and began checking readings. His movements were professional, but beneath them, she sensed a quiet care, deep, steady, unwavering. After a moment, he exhaled in relief. The twins are stable. Both heart rates look good. Evelyn smiled weakly. Thank you. Marcus hesitated before speaking. I meant what I said last night, but I don't want you to feel pressured by anything, not my feelings, not Graham's guilt, not the chaos Sabrina created. She nodded, grateful for the space he was giving her. I know. There was another knock at the door. Graham entered, carrying a paper cup of coffee and a small bag from a bakery downstairs. His shoulders were slumped, his tie loosened, his entire presence stripped of the arrogance he once wore like armor. I brought breakfast, he said quietly. If you feel up to eating. Evelyn blinked in surprise. Graham had never brought her breakfast to a hospital, never even thought to. It was such a small gesture, but something inside her softened not in forgiveness, but in recognition. He was trying. Marcus stepped aside, giving them room. Graham placed the bag on the table. They had your favorite blueberry muffins, the ones you always got at the corner bakery before work. Evelyn's breath caught. He remembered. After months of forgetting nearly everything about her, he remembered that. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded, swallowing hard. I also contacted the legal team. We're filing full charges against Sabrina, not just for harassment, for defamation, medical endangerment, and unauthorized access to corporate records. Marcus added, The hospital is filing their own charges for violating patient privacy. And, Graham continued, the board decided to appoint an interim CEO. I'm stepping back completely. I need to focus on this, on you, on the babies, on what's left of our marriage, if anything is. Evelyn looked at him, searching for truth. Why now, Graham? Why not months ago? His voice cracked. Because I didn't realize how much I had until I almost lost everything. Marcus stood near the window, giving them space but listening carefully, every word shaping the fragile path ahead. Evelyn reached for the coffee cup Graham had set down. I'm not ready to forgive you, she said honestly. I'm not ready to decide what our future looks like. Graham nodded, pain flickering across his face. I know. I'm not asking for an answer. Just time. She hesitated, then said softly, time we can try. His eyes filled with quiet gratitude. But before the moment could settle, a nurse rushed in, breathless. Mrs. Donovan, there's something you need to see. It's all over the news. Evelyn's heart lurched. What now? The nurse turned on the suite's small TV. Breaking news, banners flashed across the screen. Sabrina Lowe arrested, charged with manipulation and unlawful access. Evidence of fake pregnancy exposed. Victim, Evelyn Hartman Donovan, trends nationwide. Video clips played Sabrina screaming as she was led away in handcuffs, reporters shouting, flashes exploding around her. The nurse added, someone anonymously leaked the security footage to the media. It shows exactly what she did to you. Marcus crossed his arms, expression unreadable. Graham looked stunned. Who leaked it? The nurse shrugged. No name was attached, just labeled, for Evelyn. Evelyn's breath stilled. Someone out there, someone watching, had decided she deserved justice. Marcus glanced at her, something knowing flickering in his eyes. Graham shut his eyes, relief and shame mingling. It's over, he whispered. She can't hurt you anymore. Evelyn wasn't sure if it was over, but for the first time, she felt the ground beneath her strengthening. Because justice had begun, and now, she finally had the power to decide what came next. The night Evelyn finally went into labor was calm, unexpectedly calm. After days of fear, betrayal, and chaos, the quiet of the private suite felt almost sacred. Nurses moved efficiently around her as contractions intensified, and Marcus stayed at her side, his presence steady and grounding. Graham stood nearby, nervous and silent, respecting the boundaries she'd drawn. When the medical team wheeled her toward the delivery room, Evelyn felt a swell of emotion, fear, yes, but also a fierce determination. She had survived heartbreak, danger, lies, and humiliation. Now she was stepping into something new, something she had fought for with every breath, motherhood. Inside the delivery room, lights glowed warm instead of harsh. The soft hum of machines blended with the reassuring voices of nurses. Marcus adjusted her oxygen mask gently. You're ready, he said, his voice low and steady. And they're ready too. Evelyn nodded, gripping his hand. Stay with me. Always. Graham stepped closer, hesitant. Evelyn, may I stay too? She looked into his eyes, eyes filled with remorse, gratitude, and something she hadn't seen in a very long time. Humility. She gave a small nod. Yes. Stay. He exhaled slowly, relieved, and touched her shoulder gently. Hours passed in waves, pain, pressure, pushing, breathing, the rhythm of bringing life into the world. Through it all, Evelyn felt an unfamiliar strength blooming inside her, something deeper than survival, purpose, love, power. Then, at 3:14 a.m., baby A entered the world with a sharp, healthy cry that instantly brought tears to Evelyn's eyes. Marcus lifted the tiny infant, smiling through exhaustion. A boy, he announced warmly. Strong heart, strong lungs. A few minutes later, baby B followed a smaller cry, but just as determined. And a girl, Marcus added, voice cracking with emotion. Both perfect. Evelyn sobbed softly as the babies were placed against her chest, their warmth melting every fear she'd carried for months. For the first time, she felt whole. Graham wiped tears from his own eyes. They're beautiful, he whispered, just like their mother. She didn't reply, but her heart softened. Moments later, when they were settled back in her suite, Evelyn lay holding both infants, her son sleeping against her shoulder, her daughter curled in the crook of her arm. She felt a peace she hadn't known in years. Marcus stood near her bed, watching them with a quiet awe. You did it, he murmured. You saved them. Evelyn smiled. We saved them. Graham stepped forward hesitantly. Evelyn, I know the damage I caused won't disappear. But these babies, they changed me. You changed me. If you give me the chance, I want to be the father they deserve. Evelyn looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't the man who walked into the hospital with Sabrina. He wasn't the cold CEO who once shut her out. He was stripped down, humbled, open. But trust wasn't something she could hand out freely anymore. She placed her daughter gently into his arms. Then start here, she said softly. Show her, show him, show me. His eyes glistened. I will. He kissed their daughter's forehead, and Evelyn saw the truth. Whatever their future held, Graham was finally ready to grow. Marcus approached the other side of the bed. And no matter what you choose, Evelyn, you won't have to face life alone again. She met his gaze warm, steady, full of quiet love she wasn't yet ready to explore. I know, she whispered. Outside, dawn broke over Manhattan, painting the sky with soft pink and gold. A new day. A new beginning. Evelyn looked down at her twins, her heart full. Sabrina faced justice. Truth had prevailed. And love, real love, had found its way to her in the end. And as the sun rose, Evelyn finally felt what she'd been denied for far too long. Peace, freedom, and a future she could choose on her own terms. And just like that, our story comes to a close. But you, yes, you who stayed until this very moment, are still here. And that tells me something deep inside you was touched by Evelyn's journey. Maybe because, in some way, you've carried your own quiet battles, your own heartbreak, your own rebirth. What this story reminds us is simple yet powerful. Healing begins the moment we stop begging for love from the wrong places and start honoring our own worth. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Evelyn learned this in the hardest way, but she rose. And so can you. Life won't always give us the apologies we deserve, but it will always offer us the chance to begin again with clearer eyes and a stronger heart. If this journey spoke to you, even just a little, please like the video, share it with someone who might need a reminder of their strength, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story of courage, healing, and new beginnings. We're here with you, always.